It's What's Wild in New Hampshire by Wildlife Biologist Derek Orr. This is Tuesday, the 28th of October, 2025. I'm up to Livermore Falls on the Pemigewasset River with John Greenwood. We're going to talk about what happened here over the centuries and what happened here, John. And you said this is John Greenwood, a retired New Hampshire Fish and Game fisheries biologist who led the second attempt to restore Atlantic salmon to the Merrimack River. Some years, a century later almost from the first effort.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about where we are, John, and what you got going here. Then talk about the second round.
Yeah, we're right here at the site of the first constructed hatch house called the Plymouth Hatchery, and the site was chosen. It's out behind us. It's fed by a spring.
right over that berm right
and
there.
These are pictures of the building, of the interior of the hatchery.
Okay, there's the building. There's the interior.
And this is
Here's the falls. And of course, here's the salmon. Salmon too. All right, John. So what happened in the 1800s, and how successful were they?
well, during the mid-1880s, I think, was the most successful part of the program. We were able to catch wild spawning natural salmon coming up the river right here. They were netted down here below the fast water here.
So they were able to get above the Lawrence Dam, the Lowell Dam, the Amoskeag Dam.
Everything was free until 1847 when the dam at Lawrence failed. And that's actually started our program because we had to find a place to restore the fish or to try to bring them back. So,
and here was that effort.
This is the effort right here.
Yeah, the first effort.
First effort. And we're sitting right at the site of where it all happened here, and we've been around to take a look at where the spring source was. The reason it was picked by the New Hampshire Fish and Game commissioners way back when was they found a site here where there was a natural spring. It had water that stayed at 47 degrees all year round.
Wow,
Ideal
perfect.
for hatching young salmon, cold water. And that's the reason that the hatchery was built, and this is where that restoration started, is right here. And it wasn't until much
And it says
later.
right here there was 100,000 salmon eggs collected one year.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, very successful.
There was counts up to 2,000 salmon that were in this pool here at one time.
Wow.
Back, a long time ago.
1880s,
and
yeah.
even prior to that, even into the 1700s. But
So this sign says it was wound down about 1906. But interestingly enough, the first parcel of land here, 130 acres, was purchased by the state in 1817. I think 1917. I think it says here somewhere. So this began protecting this in the early 1900s, and then the second effort, led by John, acquire another 40 acres on this side of the river, where we're standing now, happened in the 80s.
in the 80s,
Yeah.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit more about the second effort to restore salmon. That you were the leader along with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. How about some of the names? I recall Al Knight, Larry Stolte, of course. Some of the other names that were part of the beginning efforts here.
Well, the first beginning was to test to find a source of salmon fry, just to do some testing of the viability of the fish in the rivers here. So in 1975, we acquired some salmon from Canada, and they were small fry, maybe 30,000. And myself and Al Knight, he was the project leader for the Fish and Wildlife Service. He and I designed kind of a setup for sampling and stocking in the Mad River, and that went on for maybe 5-10 years. It still was stocked right up until the program ended. But in any event, the valuable information that we got from producing young fry to par size and smoke, we sampled and enumerated the fish, and then I jumped over and started a program similar to that in the Baker River, and that went on for like 5 years, and then we compared data, shared data between the two rivers. And at that point, we had the promise that the backing to get more salmon. So a hatchery from the adult salmon at North Attleboro started to produce Atlantic salmon fry for the program. And then the hatchery at Warren, the old estate hatchery, was converted to trout to incubating young salmon. And at that point, we were able to produce totally about 1.3 million fry for the whole watershed.
Wow,
So
a
then
million a year.
$1 million a year.
Wow. Well, I used to borrow a fishing game truck, and I would come up with a tank and fill it with salmon fry, and I would get some volunteers. We stocked them in the Suncook River, a river that I have lived on for over 50 years now. But yeah, we put some even in the Suncook River and the tributaries.
Yeah. So total, it was probably, we had habitat here that we enumerated that came up with a figure. It's about 200 miles of tributaries to this watershed that were favorable for salmon.
Okay.
And those gave us the guidelines. Then we mapped the rivers and designed segments to be stocked and so forth. And that happened right up until the program was curtailed by the Fish and Wildlife Service.
So how many years? You started in the 70s, say 75, 76 in there with the program, 4?
So I think it must have been around 2000. What's it, 20?
Oh, the Hurricane Irene wrecked the hatchery in Vermont, right? That kind of, or where? Somewhere, and shut the program down or something. So why did the salmon program end?
Well, two factors. I mean, was really the lack of a fishway at Sewell Falls Dam and the ice storm that wiped out the first fishway on the river at Lawrence, the Essex Dam.
Okay.
And that completely killed any chance for the salmon to get up the river and perpetuate.
Oh, well, that was historical.
Yeah.
But I mean, the second effort, the second effort in beginning in the 70s, how long did that last and why did that wind down?
It was based on the science of what and the goals of the river, of the restoration designed by Fish and Wildlife, Fish and Game and so forth, was to have a self-perpetuating salmon in the river.
Yeah.
And because not enough fish were returning to make that particular scenario happen, is that the federal agency, the Fish and Wildlife Service, deemed that it didn't meet the program goals.
Okay.
So they were going to curtail the program.
Yeah.
Wind it down.
What was the peak number of salmon you had down at Lawrence?
About 450.
Really? What year do you think that would have been? Do you remember?
Just after I retired, it must have been 2009.
Okay.
10.
Wow. So there was over 200 salmon returned some years. You just say 200, 250 you said?
Well, the maximum was, I think, a little over 400.
Oh, over 400. Yeah, 400.
Some years
Wow.
when I was there, it was fluctuated from 60 to 150,
Okay.
maybe up to 200.
Yeah. But some years you actually had 400. Wow.
Yeah, that was
The peak.
the peak year.
Yeah, wow.
That's when Matt Carpenter
Yeah.
took over the program from me.
Yeah, all right. Well, cool. Good to know. This is history worth remembering. Here's the man that helped lead it all. The second effort to attempt to restore Atlantic salmon to the Merrimack River and the Pemmy. So awesome effort. And the second time, and I stocked a lot of salmon fry. Yes, I did. In the Lamprey River as well as the Merrimack River tributaries. But here is the first effort, and the man that helped lead the second effort is right here, John Greenwood from the New Hampshire Fishing Game Department. Thank you, John. We've been wanting to do this for a couple of 5 years, but here we are up to Livermore Falls today. I'm excited to be here. The river is flowing wonderfully today. The Pemmy, look at that water. That is so blue still today. A beautiful fall day here on the Pemigewasset River at Livermore Falls State Forest. I think State Park on this side, State Forest on the other side, I think. I think there's two different places here. But anyways, that's where we're standing at on the west bank of the Pemigewasset River, and it's awesome.